I surveyed him, head tilted, a critical eye. Honey, not that one, I said, pinching the fabric at his waist. It makes you look a little too comfortable, asterisk. The smile vanished from Auguste's face. His eyes went flat. I didn't know I was delivering his eviction notice from our life, not just from that shirt. To understand how we arrived at that chilling moment, you need to know how it all began. I fell in love with Auguste's embrace before I fell in love with him. It was a solid, warm, all-encompassing hug that felt like coming home. He was my human fortress, my anchor in the storm of my high-stress marketing job. I remember one evening, after a brutal quarterly review left me feeling shredded and incompetent, I came home a wreck. August didn't say much. He just opened his arms and I collapsed into him. With my head resting on his soft, comfortable chest, listening to the steady, unhurried rhythm of his heart, the anxieties of my day, the cutting words of my boss, the entire world just melted away. That embrace was my sanctuary, and for the first 2 years of our relationship, it was the only validation I ever needed. Then the algorithm, a patient and insidious hunter, found me. It started with a single like on a photo of a woman named Jenna, a fitness influencer who looked like she'd been carved from granite and sunshine. Soon, my entire Instagram feed became a curated shrine to her physical perfection. It was an endless scroll of chiseled marble abs, sculpted glutes, and sunrise yoga poses against impossibly beautiful backdrops. At first, it was aspirational, but aspiration slowly curdled into comparison, and comparison festered into a quiet, gnawing discontent. The lens through which I viewed my own life began to warp. The sanctuary of Auguste's embrace started to feel less like a fortress and more like an overstuffed couch. His relaxed attitude towards food, which I once found charmingly carefree, now seemed like a lack of discipline. The very things that had made me feel safe, his softness, his steadiness, I began to rebrand in my mind as stagnation. The comments started as what I convinced myself were playful nudges. We'd be curled up on the sofa in that same embrace I used to cherish, a dumb comedy playing on the TV, but my attention would be on my phone. Look, babe, I'd say, turning the glowing screen to show him a picture of Jenna and her equally ripped boyfriend flexing on a beach in Chilam. If we both just tried a little harder, we could look like this. Imagine the vacation photos. The first time I said it, the change in him was immediate and seismic, yet quiet. The easy laughter died in his throat. His shoulders, which had been relaxed under my head, stiffened. The warmth didn't just leave his eyes, it was like a light switch was flipped off behind them, leaving only a polite, vacant surface. He gently shifted, propping me up with a pillow, effectively breaking the embrace. I like how we are now, Sloane, he said, his voice unnervingly level. A flicker of something deep, profound hurt crossed his face, but it was gone so fast I told myself I'd imagined it. He was just being sensitive, I reasoned. It was a joke. A little push toward a better, healthier version of us. I didn't realize I wasn't just nudging him. I was serving him an eviction notice from the very sanctuary he had built for me. My jokes became a regular feature, a recurring bit in the sitcom of our lives that only I found funny. They escalated from private whispers on the couch to public pronouncements, each one chipping away at something I was too arrogant to see was finite. We were at a dinner party with our friends, Mark and Lily. August, who is a genuinely fantastic cook, had spent the entire afternoon making this incredible fall-off-the-bone braised short rib. Our friends were practically swooning. "This is restaurant quality, Augie," Lily said, her eyes wide with pleasure. "Seriously, you could sell this." I laughed, a high, sharp sound that cut through the warm buzz of the room. "Yeah, he's an excellent feeder," I announced to the table. "He's gotta keep his primary subject well fed, right?" I gave him a playful nudge in the ribs, a gesture that felt horribly pointed the moment my knuckles made contact with his side. It wasn't soft, it was solid. A thick, syrupy silence fell over the table. Mark suddenly became fascinated by the grain of the wooden table. Lily's smile faltered, her fork hovering awkwardly over her plate. August didn't look at me. He just continued to methodically cut his piece of meat into meticulously even squares, his jaw set in a tight, hard line. The silence was so loud that I could hear my own heart thumping with a sudden, sharp shame. But shame is an uncomfortable feeling, and my brain's immediate defense was to get angry. Why was he making this so awkward? It was a joke. Can he take a joke? He was embarrassing me by overreacting. This became the pattern, my self-destructive loop. I'd say something cruel disguised as humor. I'd see the flash of pain in his eyes, feel the temperature in the room drop. A brief, hot wave of regret would wash over me, and then almost immediately the justification would kick in, a soothing balm of self-deception. I'm doing this for his own good. He needs to be motivated. He's letting himself go, and it's my job as his partner to help him. I was recasting my cruelty as care, my insecurity as inspiration. I told myself I was the personal trainer for his potential. Around this time, August started changing. He began coming home late, attributing it to a demanding new project at the architecture firm. They're pushing us hard for the new library proposal, he'd say, looking tired but with a new flinty kind of focus in his eyes. On weekends, he'd be gone for hours. Going to the university library, he'd explain, packing a gym bag. Easier to focus there and I can hit their gym after, kill two birds. I didn't question it. Ugh. In fact, a selfish part of me was relieved. It gave me more time to myself, more time to scroll through Jenna's perfect life without August's soft, judgmental presence nearby. I saw his new routine not as a reaction to my behavior, but as a validation of it. See? My motivation was working, he was finally taking the hint. His physical and emotional distance, which should have been a screaming red flag, was something I interpreted as him finally understanding the need for self-improvement. I thought he was giving me space. In reality, he was building a wall brick by silent brick, and I was handing him the mortar. The final nail was hammered in a week before my 28th birthday. I was planning a big party, a proper event at a chic downtown lounge. It was important to me. It wasn't just a birthday, it was a branding opportunity, a curated display of my fabulous life. And I needed my partner to fit the brand. We were in our bedroom, clothes strewn everywhere as I tried to pick the perfect outfit for him. I had already chosen my dress, a slinky silver number that demanded attention. August was a good sport, trying on whatever I threw at him. He came out of the closet wearing a deep blue button-down shirt that I'd always loved on him. It made his eyes look like the ocean. He looked at his reflection, a small, genuine smile gracing his lips for the first time in what felt like weeks. "What do you think of this one?" he asked. The shirt fit him well, but it was comfortable. It didn't scream elite. It whispered dependable. My gaze drifted to his midsection. The fabric was smooth, not taut. I was on a roll, too wrapped up in my vision for the party to notice the finality of what I was doing. "For my birthday," I continued, turning to face him, my voice earnest and conspiratorial, "I just want us to look like a power couple. An elite couple, it's all about the pictures, the aesthetic." I was essentially telling him he was an accessory, a prop for my social media feed. I expected the usual reaction. The quiet hurt, the subtle withdrawal, the tense silence that would last for a few hours. Instead, something different happened. He stood perfectly still, looking at our reflections in the full-length mirror. He looked at me, then at himself, then back at me. A strange, unnerving calm settled over his features. The hurt was gone, replaced by something I couldn't read. It was a chilling, absolute stillness. Then he smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, it was a smile of acceptance of decision. "You're right," he said, his voice smooth as glass. "You are absolutely right. I'll make sure we both look up to standard for your birthday." He took off the blue shirt, folded it with precise, deliberate movements, and placed it back in the drawer. He didn't argue. He didn't look sad, he just agreed. And his calm, quiet acceptance was the most terrifying response he could have possibly given. It was the deep, silent breath before the tsunami. On the morning of my birthday, I woke up to an empty bed. The space beside me was cold. For a moment, I was disoriented, my mind still fuzzy with sleep. Then a familiar wave of irritation washed over me. He was probably downstairs, making some grand, apologetic breakfast to make up for his moodiness lately. I rolled over and saw a single, plain white envelope on his nightstand. My name, Sloane, was written on it in his neat, architectural handwriting. "No, my dearest, no to the love of my life." Just my name. Inside was a simple card. It read, "Happy birthday." No signature, no love, August, just two words. A cold knot of dread began to form in my stomach. This wasn't a surprise, it was a statement. I grabbed my phone off the charger, my thumb already hovering over his contact, ready to unleash a torrent of angry, self-pitying texts. But before I could, a notification lit up my screen. "August Thorne tagged you in a post." A surge of relief, so potent it made me dizzy, washed away the dread. Of course, this was it. This was the surprise. He was being dramatic and mysterious to lead up to some big public declaration of love. A digital grand gesture to kick off my birthday. I smiled, feeling foolish for my momentary panic. I clicked the notification, my heart thumping with anticipation. The screen loaded, and my world tilted on its axis. It wasn't a picture of us, it wasn't a loving tribute. It was a professional-grade photograph, the kind you'd see on a fitness magazine cover. It was August, but an August I had never seen. He was leaning against a set of dumbbells in a brightly lit, industrial-looking gym. He was shirtless. His chest, once my soft pillow, was now a landscape of defined muscle. His arms, which used to just hold me, were now corded with veins and sinew. And his stomach was a washboard of perfectly sculpted abs. He looked powerful, confident, and utterly, devastatingly hot. And he wasn't alone. Standing beside him, with her hand resting possessively on his chest, was a woman. Her body was a mirror of his own dedication, lean, strong, with the unmistakable glow of someone who lived at the gym. They were wearing matching athletic gear. They were both beaming, not just smiling, but radiating a kind of shared, triumphant joy. They looked like the after photo. My eyes blurred with tears as I forced myself to read the caption. Every word was a perfectly aimed dart. Happy birthday to the one who showed me what the standard is. Is this good enough now, baby? Hash new beginnings level up, hash fitness goals power couple. He had tagged me. He wanted to make sure I saw it. This wasn't a message of love, it was a receipt. It was proof of purchase for a new life paid for with my own careless words. My first thought, a desperate, gasping reflex, was this is a joke. A horribly cruel, elaborate, and vicious birthday prank. He'd hired a model, photoshopped his head onto someone else's body. He had to have. The August I knew, the one who sighed contentedly after eating a whole pizza, couldn't have transformed like that in secret. My fingers shaking, fumbled to dial his number, straight to voicemail. The person you are trying to reach is not available. Please leave a message. His voice on the recording was the old August, warm and slightly amused. It was like a ghost. I hung up and tried again. Voicemail. I sent a text. This isn't funny, August. Whatever this is, it's sick. Call me now. I stared at the screen, waiting for the three little dots to appear. Nothing. I sent another. Who is that woman? The message sent. The bar underneath turned green, but the little delivered confirmation never appeared. My blood ran cold. I tried WhatsApp, a single gray checkmark. He had blocked me everywhere. Panic, sharp and acidic, clawed its way up my throat. I scrambled from the bed and ran to his closet. It was half empty, his favorite hoodies, his worn-in jeans, his running shoes all gone. His side of the bathroom vanity was wiped clean, his toothbrush was gone. The aftershave I'd bought him for Christmas, the one that smelled like sandalwood and cedar, was gone. This wasn't a prank. This was an evacuation. In a haze of disbelief and rising hysteria, I called Maya, my best friend. I was sobbing so hard I could barely form words, spitting out a garbled, frantic story about a birthday post, a strange woman, and August's empty closet. I painted myself as the victim of a sociopathic blindside. I needed her to be outraged for me to validate my sense of betrayal. There was a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, the soft click of her lighter. Maya, are you there? I choked out. I'm here, she said, her voice devoid of its usual warmth. It was flat, clinical. Sloan, honestly, what did you expect? Her question hit me like a slap. What do you mean, what did I expect? I expected him not to cheat on me and announce it to the entire world on my goddamn birthday. Did he cheat on you? She asked, her tone dangerously calm. Or did he leave you and then move on? Because there's a difference. Sloan, for months I've listened to you talk about him, every joke, every little jab. You told him over and over again that he wasn't good enough. You shamed him for the very thing you used to say you loved. So he finally listened. He met your standard. And now you're mad that the person who meets that standard isn't you. Her words were brutal, precise, and they stripped away my carefully constructed narrative of victimhood. They left me naked with the ugly truth of my own actions. I started to argue, to deflect, to blame her for not taking my side. You're supposed to be my friend, I shrieked, the accusation thin and pathetic even to my own ears. I am your friend, she said, her voice softening just a fraction, but not with pity, with finality. And that's why I'm telling you the truth. He used the ruler you handed him every single day. It's not his fault you don't measure up anymore. She hung up, leaving me in a silence that was louder and more damning than any accusation. The days that followed were a masterclass in social humiliation. August's post went viral in our little corner of the world. It was the digital equivalent of a public square shaming. My phone, which I had expected to be blowing up with birthday wishes, was instead a minefield of awkward silences and pitying emojis. Friends, or people I thought were friends, sent me messages like, OMG, Sloan, are you okay? Face with open mouth, or thinking of you, let me know if you need anything. It wasn't support, it was morbid curiosity. They wanted the gory details. The fallout was swift and brutal. I was no longer Sloan, the fun, confident marketing exec. I was Sloan, the girl who got dumped in the most spectacularly savage way imaginable. I became a cautionary tale, a meme in my own social circle. I'd hear whispers at work. I saw the way mutual friends would avert their eyes when I walked into a room. My meticulously curated life, my brand, had been shattered by a single, perfectly targeted Instagram post. About a week after my birthday, a week spent oscillating between rage-fueled crying jags and hollow numbness, I saw the final confirmation. It came, as most modern heartbreaks do, via someone else's Instagram story. It was our friend Mark's. The first slide was a picture of a cocktail against a sunset. The second was a group shot, and there in the middle of it all was August. He was on a beach somewhere, tanned and relaxed. His arm was draped around the new woman. Her name was Chloe. I'd learned from a deep, painful dive into her public profile, and he was laughing. It wasn't the polite, strained smile he had given me for the last 6 months. It was a huge, uninhibited, head-thrown-back laugh of pure, unadulterated joy. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard from him in years. the kind of laugh I realized I had personally extinguished. He looked free, he looked happy, he looked like he hadn't just left a relationship but escaped from a prison. That was the moment I finally, truly understood. This wasn't a lesson. It wasn't a twisted, cruel attempt to win me back by showing me what I'd lost. It was a closing statement. The lesson part, the public post, the calculated caption, was just the scorched earth tactic he used to ensure the bridge between us was not just burned but vaporized. He wasn't teaching me how to be a better partner for him, he was just showing me why he had found a new one. The full weight of my regret crashed down on me then, suffocating and absolute. I thought of his warm, safe hugs, the sanctuary I had systematically dismantled with my own insecurity and cruelty. I had taken his unconditional love and told him it came with conditions. I had taken his safe harbor and filled it with mines. I sat there in the silence of my apartment, the ghost of his presence everywhere, and in the deepest, most pathetic part of my soul, a final, ugly thought surfaced. A whisper of the person I still was. But he could have just talked to me, I murmured to the empty room. He didn't have to do it like asterisk that. The words tasted like ash in my mouth, the final, flimsy shield of a woman who had torched her own home and was now complaining about the smoke.